Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 26, 2025 meeting of the Delhi Township Board of Trustees. We'll begin the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Tonight's moment of silence is kind of a sad, sorrowful thing that as we look across the country, we realize how fortunate we've been that we're not California with wind and fire. We weren't North Carolina with water and tornadoes, and we weren't Kentucky. And each one of these Mother Nature torments actually caused the loss of life. And for those souls that were lost by Mother Nature, we pray for tonight. Now the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, everyone. The meeting is open, and we'll start with an approval of minutes. Mr. Luby.
Motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on February 12th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All those in
Nope, I can't, sorry.
Oh,
I
that's
can't.
why I'm putting my finger up. She can't second
wasn't
because
here.
she was not here. I'll second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve overtime for pay period ending February 18th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve bills for payment.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved. Report from our fiscal officer, Mr. Luby.
As far as significant transactions since our last meeting, we had $81,000 to Midtown Health, and that was for our January shortfall. We had a payment to $85,000 to Bradstatter Carroll. They were for architectural services at DTS. And we did submit our 2024 annual financial statements to the state of Ohio this month, and we will have those up on our website before the end of the month. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Trustee correspondent, Trustee Davis.
Not at this time that I'm sure that you or Rose will probably cover, so.
All right, Trustee Sturts.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you, it's good to be back. Chief Braun at least received a letter from a resident for a commendation for Officer Mark Myers, who helped the family out in a situation involving their daughter. And he just wanted us to know that Officer Myers demonstrated outstanding communication skills, keeping our family informed and reassured throughout the entire process. He coordinated seamlessly with other departments, ensuring that all necessary resources were utilized. His commitment to going above and beyond his duties was evident as he worked tirelessly with various departments until everything was safely filled. So he just wants to, again, we have great first responders in many, many ways, and we love when residents reach out and tell us what a great job they're doing. So again, thank you, Mark, and I can call him that because I've known him since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. So that's good. Secondly, recently I was contacted by the Executive Director of Philanthropy at Episcopal Retirement Services. This may be familiar to you or maybe not, but this is the group that's building the apartments over at the corner of Foley and Greenwell. No, not Greenwell. Pedretti, thank you. Pedretti Place. I should have known that. They are taking names and for their wait list if anybody is interested. I just want to give you the information they gave me, which I will give to Mr. Miller so that when people do call up here, they know. But the wait list is open. Planned features of Pedretti Place include 6 2-bedroom, 42 1-bedroom apartment for seniors age 55 and older. Remember, this is an older
Senior
adults.
living.
Senior living. Thank you. I'm having trouble with my words tonight. See, I'm still on vacation. But anyway, it rents for seniors with limited income. This is not Section 8 housing. Don't go getting in a tizzy and don't start any rumors, okay? But the spacious community room and computer center, laundry facilities, fitness and wellness center, spiritual services and social activities, outdoor patio space, access to community services in Delhi Township and Price Hill, transportation to events and shopping, and a service coordinator there to help them to assist in any way they can. Again, age 55 or older, income no greater than $44,000 if it's one person or $50,000 if it's a couple. So to learn more about living there or to request an application, here is the number. Delilah Marshall at 513-766-5081. Delilah Marshall at 513-766-5081. So there's information on it, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you who have been wondering, and they are taking wait list names now. Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone who attended Saturday's Delhi on Tap, our inaugural beer fest, so to speak. I think everyone not only enjoyed themselves, but behaved in a way that we were very proud of. And the volunteers were terrific, and it was a great time. And so I hope the word gets around that the next time we have an event similar, that you'll remember us and make it a point to be here. Enjoyed the day. Thank you so much. Okay, we have two presentations this evening. The first is Mr. Seth Cutter, who is the Vice President of Public Affairs for our airport, CVG Airport. So, Mr. Cutter, if you could.
Got to hit the push button.
You know what? Actually,
Throw things.
Seth.
Oh, thank you.
Let me get it set up real fast.
You got it? Okay. Thank you, Madam President, trustees. It's really an honor to be here with you all. It's been some time, so I kept pestering Administrator Miller to let me come and provide the latest airport updates for you all. And I just want to compliment you, as I shared with some of you before, the town square is a gem here in Delhi Township. It is a wonderful facility. Got here a little early so I could have some coffee too, just around the corner. I will try to make this as brief as possible. I've known the trustees for several years now, and they know I'm not brief, so I'll try to hop and skip through this quickly. But things are going well at the airport. I think the last time I came to a trustee meeting, we were before the pandemic, and obviously for the last 5 years, that has really put a damper on passenger levels, but we're pleased to share that by the end of last year, 2024, we recovered 100% of the passenger volume at CVG, so we served more than 9.2 million passengers, many residents, businesses, visitors to Hamilton County, Delhi Township, and the whole region. And then, of course, as is not unknown to you all, we are the seventh largest cargo airport in North America. Oh, thank you. The side tables are saving me. I should know this by now, but we're obviously one of the top 10 largest cargo airports in North America. We do employ about 16,000 badge holders across the campus, so all of the 70-plus companies doing business at the airport, and then all told, that creates about $9.3 billion of annual economic impact. And UC Economic Center just did that study for us in 22. So on the passenger side, as I mentioned, we're very proud of the spider map. Folks can get where they want relatively conveniently, I would offer, and airfares really have never, the average airfare at the airport is really competitive. It's among the lowest figures it's been, and of course that's on top of adding, as you all know, British Airways London Heathrow service in 2023. So it's now been about a year and a half, almost 2 years of that service. It flies 5 days a week during the peak months and 4 days here in the lower months. It's done incredibly well, right? All of our regional partners, folks that work with you on the realm of economic development and tourism, have really come to support that flight, and it's a great asset for our region, so we're very proud of that. On the cargo side, you all know we have the hub, the Americas hub for DHL Express, and then Amazon Air has been open and operational in its facility right across the street from DHL since August of 2021. So those two cargo hub operations employ a lot of folks. And then what has been really a great story coming along with that, or since then, has been all the other companies that have been attracted to the airport into the region because of the cargo. So one example of that is Feem Aero. Feem is a South Florida-based company who does aircraft maintenance on the wide-body aircraft that fly primarily for DHL and Amazon. And they opened up this first hangar that they have in 2020, right before the pandemic. And then last year we celebrated the opening of their second hangar, which is double the size, right? So they're doing a lot of business, not only for cargo carriers, but other passenger carriers as well. So that's a great asset to have. And those are wonderful job opportunities. What we're excited about, I'm going to skip ahead here for a minute. Just last spring, we opened with another Florida-based company coming to the region. Epic Academy has opened up not a flight training school, we hope they will, but they have opened up an aircraft maintenance technician program directly on campus. This complements our friends at Cincinnati State that also have a classroom on campus. So we're bringing the students, as you can see, directly to the airport, and then these are the type of companies they can go after an 18-month licensure program and get a certification in aviation maintenance. We're adding some other general air freight facilities in the last few years, not unlike you all in Delhi that are making moves here that I see all across the township, but we're also demolishing some of the oldest buildings on the airport campus to make room for some new buildings that will help service some of our tenants. And then DHL is also building a hangar. There's a large crane if you're out that way, and they're investing about $300 million in an aircraft hangar to service their aircraft directly. There's lots of projects going on. I won't belabor the point. You all know we have about 7,000 acres under management, and there's a lot of projects and other developments happening nearby. But the one thing that I think is relevant for those watching at home and for residents particularly is over the next 5 years, the experience going through the airport as a passenger may be a little, I shouldn't say it will be rough. It will be wonderful because we have high marks from passengers, but we're going to be ripping up a lot of the airport. The facilities in which we operate are very old. Parts of Concourse A date back to the 60s and 70s, and the mechanical systems, just like you all have had to do with Township operated facilities, it's time to replace mechanical systems and improve circulation from the tunnel level up to the gates at the concourse level. So we're embarking on this program called Elevate CVG that will invest probably about $600 million in upgrading the passenger facilities over the course of the next 5 years. So that will be ongoing. Okay. Last year, we had two major runway projects. This is my lead into the noise stuff. We had two major runway projects. This first one here, the easternmost runway that kind of lines up to Delhi Township, that one was closed for just a few weeks in June and July, and then it reopened before we closed the center runway for about what was that? It was July through December. So about half the year, the center runway of our four was closed for major rehabilitation. That opened back up in December, so all four runways are operational and in normal patterns. Okay. And that's the lead-in to our noise updates, right? Because that's obviously a concern for many folks in Delhi. And that those runway projects contributed to some of the things you all, as trustees or others, officials in the township may have heard or residents experienced. But we've updated, I'm going to go through these slides quickly. We've updated a lot of our materials on the website for folks. So I have a QR code and a link at the end, and that obviously can be a nice resource for folks. But we've tried over the last year, in addition to our Aviation Noise Abatement Committee, on which Delhi has, I think, 2 representatives, and that group being very engaged and a nice conduit to each of the communities that are impacted by noise. We've done a little bit more stakeholder outreach. So last fall, we did a briefing for realtors and other builders, developers who might be doing projects around the airport, so they could better understand kind of the normal patterns, et cetera. And then we did there's lots going on, as you all know, federally with the FAA, but we did submit updates in late 2023 to the FAA for nighttime runway use and updated noise exposure maps. We have not yet received the word that they're okay because I don't know who works at the FAA anymore. Anyway, hopefully we'll hear back on that soon. But obviously an important part of noise, we've had many historic programs, as those of you who are lifetime residents of Delhi know. Mitigation programs have come and gone over the years. We don't have any active ones, but our departure procedures and arrival procedures are still much the same as they have been. Nothing's really changed, and those updates that we sent to the FAA, as I said, haven't really, it's not going to change much. It's just formalizing these procedures that have been in place for many years. As you all know from the noise exposure maps, this is from 2011, we have, as operational demands change and merit, that's when you start updating these exposure contours. The latest readings really haven't shown much of a change in terms of what you see on the screen are the most, or the highest levels of noise exposure, right? The 55, 65, or 75 DNL, day-night level. That's an average of decibel levels over the 24-hour period of day and night. So it's all contained to Kentucky, but obviously that's why I always say with these maps, it doesn't mean that people, of course, in Delhi to the north of the airport are not impacted by noise. There's varying levels, and those who frequently experience noise know this, but the air traffic control tower, the FAA directs the aircraft on a day-to-day basis. They manage airspace, they manage the runways. The airport obviously is here to work with the community in terms of what are the procedures, what is the community feedback, taking that back. And then, of course, for residents, prospective residents, realtors, et cetera, we want to make sure that folks are educated before they buy property or move into places that have historically been underneath either departure or arrival corridors, or that, you know, out to the west of the airport, that's our preferred nighttime runway. When conditions and wind and weather allow, departures are out to the west over the least densely populated part of the region. And we, of course, want to make sure that folks that might be buying property there are aware that they're going to experience noise between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. pretty regularly, because the airport cannot restrict the use of runways. We're federally prohibited from restricting use of runways or regulating, you know, so many. We're not a super congested airport in terms of operations like one of your East Coast or West Coast airports, so we can't restrict the use of runways at certain hours of the day, but as we have over the course of decades, we can work with the community and the air traffic control FAA folks to establish procedures of where that noise should go. So I will flip through these maps. Everybody here has experienced this, but we've included several maps. I think the green lines are an example of the arrival procedures. I think, yes, departures are in blue. You'll see this in the next few slides. And then, of course, there are different rules for daytime. There are different rules for nighttime. Daytime is obvious. Nighttime is the hours of 10 or 11 p.m. through 7 a.m. And there are different procedures for the different types of aircraft, right? So these are the normal procedures during the daytime. If we're in a south flow, of course, that's all dependent on weather. Wind primarily, where is the wind predominantly coming out of, because aircraft have to land and take off into the wind. And of course, a larger aircraft has different procedures than a smaller aircraft. So your narrow body or smaller aircraft can make turns a little more quickly. And obviously from a noise perspective, they produce noise, but they're not as noisy as a larger wide body aircraft. So if we're in the, that was the south flow, this is a north flow. Of course, you all have these slides, and we have that all kind of published on our website. Again, different procedures for day and night. And then this is the nighttime operation, which you all know For mainline or cargo aircraft, you can see a lot of that due west, that departure traffic. That's, as I mentioned, the preferred nighttime runway. And then, as you know, the river corridor and our friends in Sailor Park, obviously, are kind of in that valley right on top of the river corridor. The river is a natural sound barrier or a sound corridor, just like highways are. So that's the procedure where they take if they're departing to the north, take the river corridor. And so from a volume perspective, just to give you an update on last year's totals, we actually decreased about 50% our complaints, at least that were reported into the airport, from 2023. So there were 1,087 complaints last year, and we had about 160,000 aircraft operations. So you can see these charts show you kind of how that tracks over time. In the bottom right there is the month-by-month breakout, right? So one thing that's worth noting is, when in the warmer weather months, when windows might be open, that's when we see an uptick in complaints versus colder months. And then, of course, most of our complaints, it's pretty split between Kentucky and Ohio, but we pulled the map here so you could see where the volume of complaints were coming from over the course of last year, which is kind of the western side of Hamilton County in general. And again, it's worth noting that because one of the runways directly over, the flight path is directly over Delhi, was closed for half of the year, that probably contributed to a lower than usual amount of noise being reported. As I mentioned, we have a near real-time flight tracking tool on our website, so if folks get woken up in the middle of the night, or if they have concerns that, hey, I heard something over the course of the last week and I don't normally hear that, folks can go directly online and look that up. It's on a security delay of like 5 or 10 minutes, but otherwise you can do that tracking and look at altitudes, look at what the type of aircraft is, and all of that can be accessed through this main QR code or at our website, cvgairport.com/noise. And we have all these resources that I just went through and a PDF. We just finished this PDF, particularly for homeowners or residents, folks who may be relocating. It's somewhat of a relocation guide, so folks, as they're researching home sites, can check that out as well. I have talked for far too long, so I will now stop and see if you have any questions.
Well, Seth, thank you for being here because obviously CVG, their noise, their traffic affects the quality of life to everyone on the west side.
Yes, ma'am.
And we do have a resident here that does have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
I'm going to ask him to come up now. Yes. If you can just come up and introduce yourself and give your address.
Hello, Scott Beck, 140 River Rama. What else did you need?
That's it.
That it? All right, cool. All right, well, thank you. I'm lifelong, I shouldn't say lifelong, but I'm originally from the west side. My wife and I moved away for a while, moved back 7.5 years ago, moved to an amazing house over in the Palisades subdivision, get to see the river certain times a year, just awesome. Reasons we moved here, great schools, top-notch fire and police. Those were all reasons why we moved here, and occasionally noisy neighbor. But the past 2 years have, in my opinion, have gotten out of control, and I'm not sure the numbers really support what we have been experiencing. Every time I make a complaint, it just seems like it's something, and it's usually a form letter. So I do use the website to address my concerns. Sometimes it's the wind, so I've been tracking, how high is the wind? Sometimes it's, we're working on a runway. Okay, I kind of get that too. But it just seems like it's always something different. And it's gotten to the point, especially in the past few months, it has really gotten out of control, shaking our house, waking people up. And I think one of the things that I found interesting, so I'm a data guy. I looked at the 2023 report that I found online right now, and according to this, it says that Delhi Township only had 24 complaints in 2023. I will tell you, I put in more than that, and I can't be the only one. So I'm not really sure what can be done. We knew we lived near the airport, but 7.5 years ago it was a much quieter airport. Airport's going through a lot of transformation. It's changing its business model. Hey, we support that as well, but we would like CVG to be a better neighbor and cool it a little bit and be a little bit quieter. We spend a lot of money on our homes. We spend a lot of money for our community, and we care about this community. But some of the things that are going on right now are going to hurt us, and we're going to end up forcing people to leave. So that's really what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth, this is kind of echoing a lot of the questions that all of us here on this board get on a regular basis. I guess one of the questions I have is, how does this compare to the air traffic going to the other side of Hamilton County? And why can't we share better?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for sharing the experience, because I think we try to do our best, and we could always do better in terms of communication, outreach to folks. In terms of, Trustee Seavey, your question, when CVG was a hub airport for Delta, right? I think those of you who are long tenured or who have come back remember what that experience was like. And I know we have talked before about, well, it was different. Yeah, you had 700 flights a day, but it was a lot of smaller regional jets versus the wide bodies. The business of the airport is changed, as you noted, in terms of cargo, right? In terms of landed weight, we have about 35% split of cargo versus passenger. The cargo business for DHL is primarily an overnight operation. And Amazon coming in since 2017 is more in the daytime, right? Daytime isn't as bothersome as the nighttime. Back to your question, Madam President, the purpose of our Aviation Noise Abatement Committee, right, that was set up in the 80s was really to bring together all the communities surrounding the airport, as I mentioned, that are impacted by noise, and have that group as representatives of the community to discuss and debate, right, where is development happening in the region, how do we share the burden of noise, exactly to your question. We do get, as you mentioned, probably not from eastern Hamilton County because of how the flight paths are constructed, right? We have 3 parallel north-south runways, which means as aircraft are lining up, it's due south over Florence and Boone County, Kentucky, or it's the western side of Hamilton County. In terms of the east-west runway, to your question, when that runway is in use, right, because of the predominant winds, and usually it's upper-level winds versus the winds, that you're experiencing on the ground, usually the winds are dictating arrivals on that runway from the west, so over Indiana to that runway, or out to the west in the departure corridor. We do get complaints from eastern Hamilton County when we do have those paths, those aircraft pathing over the east and all the kind of counties and communities in Kentucky that are along I-275. But to your point, one of the reasons the ANAC exists and our noise procedures have been in place since the early 90s is because the airport's mission has been to work with different development partners, planning agencies, et cetera, to ensure that where these corridors are, that we're avoiding development in the most sensitive areas, or as new developers are looking at projects, that they're not building in places that are most noise sensitive. For instance, the river corridor has been, I'm not saying it's right or your experience isn't important, but the river corridor has been in place for some time. Now, what's different to the feedback and to your question is as we've increased volumes, right, it becomes more noticeable. Right. I'm not really aware of anything out of the ordinary to the past few months to the question that has made anything different except the reopening of the runway, as I mentioned, that was closed, where more normal patterns are taking place. So Delhi, I know, has great, very active representatives on the ANAC, and they give that they give that feedback to us. I think the last thing I would say is it's worth noting that the airport just can't change unilaterally the procedures that have been in place, and I know that's very frustrating to the experience of folks who are living this on a daily basis when you have winds out of the south and you're getting a lot of north flow. Because the FAA approves these contour maps and our procedures being different for each runway, the tower must follow them, and that's where we give feedback to them if we're hearing that, hey, things are weird and they're not being followed, or people suspect that they aren't, that we need folks to give that feedback. To your point about the number of complaints, it seems counterintuitive to keep complaining. We hope that it's not as disruptive over time, but we know that it often is, and we want to make sure that we're being responsive to that feedback. And so it may seem counterintuitive to tell neighbors to keep complaining, but that helps, I think, paint a better picture, to your point, of the situation kind of writ large.
Okay, all right. One thing that I've noticed, because I still have
Yes,
the
ma'am.
app on my phone of
Yeah.
Flight Radar, is the cargo flight, and I don't mean to stop economic development, and
Sure.
I'm not against enterprise, that's not the point. But our cargo planes that come over here are significantly lower. I mean significantly lower. They're throwing a shadow on the ground. So, and I know that you monitor that and you restrict them to air height coming in, but they are, Seth, they are low. I mean, I feel like I could, wave to the pilot, they're so low. And it's usually the cargo guys. So if you could take that back and let them know. Trustee Davis, do you have a question for Seth?
Just a question or two and a couple comments. And Seth, I don't admire your position, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want to be in your position.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks for coming out and doing what you do. And I do remember last time you were here a few years ago, and I remember how professional you were when there were several shots taken at you. Not literally,
That's okay.
but some, comments and things. So please don't take that in this vein. But I do have a couple comments for you. I was out there yesterday at the airport, and I have to say I was extremely impressed. Everything that's going on out there, it is amazing. From making it user-friendly is the first thing I thought, with your parking right there at the terminal. You're getting a rental car, you're right there. The money, the millions that's being invested out there. And it really was, my thought when I was leaving it was, I'm leaving a little city here, is what it felt like. So kudos to that. That's awesome. And investments into the community. I applaud the comment about, or question about, let me water it down. Is this going on the east side, or is this a west side thing? Because that's how it goes, and we're not naive. We get it. There's flight patterns, and things aren't going to change overnight. Part of the frustration that I have is, regardless of what this is discussed here, Seth, I feel like there's nothing that's going to change, simply because you guys, it's already rocking and rolling. There's not much that you're going to change in the way it is. I have to pull you back to your conversation, because I sat kind of up, and because I wanted to make sure I understood it before I unpack it. The hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Say that again. Did you say that you can't regulate those times, or you can't? What did I miss on that?
No, it's a great question. So airports in general, because we take federal money to improve our infrastructure, cannot restrict the commercial use of the airfield, right? So we can't turn away an aircraft. In some of the most congested airports in the country, there are things called slot restrictions, which basically say, the airport can restrict how many operations there are per hour. You have to meet certain thresholds, and we're not there. The distinction of daytime versus nighttime is that during the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., there are different procedures for the use of runways that the air traffic control tower must follow, because noise at night in those hours is more sensitive than during the day. So hopefully that helps.
It does, but it doesn't help Scott that lives on River Rama, I can tell you that.
Right.
And the others. And I know some of it is just a growing pain. It's production. Life is changing. The airport isn't what it was 10 years ago, and we get that. And all we can do, in my closing thought, is beg you and have your number. And Scott, I would agree. I'm sure there were more than 23 calls, and I get it because some things were changed. That's why you saw more
Right.
on that outer. But your availability and being able for people to get responses instead of a form letter saying, heard it, but that's just so frustrating. And we might need to see you more than once every 4 or 5 years.
Well, that is my fault.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that feedback and those comments. Thank
Trustee
you.
Sturts?
Yes, to piggyback on Trustee Seavey's comment, somewhere along the line, I heard a comment, or and I could be wrong and I didn't remember properly, but when it comes to the height,
Right.
that you measure it by the height of what? Because Delhi is higher than the airport, so you're basing it that they have to be, let's say, 1,000 feet above your, but that could only be 500 for, and I know my numbers are way off,
No,
please.
I totally get what you
Am I correct?
mean. Yeah. Well, I think what you're referring to, and Trustee Seavey, the same sentiment, is Delhi is naturally at a higher elevation than the river and where the airport is. So if you're an instrument-based approach, right? So all commercial aircraft are instrument guided. You're on a glide scope, right? And the tower, the air traffic control tower, is giving you the altitude instruction, right? And there are standard altitudes for each runway. And one of the reasons we've talked before about seeing and waving to the pilots, because where Delhi is from an elevation perspective and the glide scope of approaching all three north-south runways is it's always going to appear closer because of the elevation. And what exacerbates it on really clear days when there's no cloud cover. So sometimes cloud cover can act as a ceiling to noise and causes it to echo back. But when there's no cloud cover, because you're naturally at a higher elevation, you're going to see, and very large aircraft seem or do appear as larger than obviously a smaller aircraft.
So they're directing them in based on the altitude at the airport, not necessarily Delhi.
Correct. And that's the safe operation of aircraft is, you can't, you're naturally on a arrival, you're coming down on a certain, again, glide scope is the instrument that is guiding this so that there's not sudden elevation change on the aircraft itself.
Seth, I appreciate your sensitivity to what we're saying.
Absolutely.
I will share with you that sometimes the person who answers the phone on those 24 complaints does not share the sensitivity.
Sure.
I'm trying to be kind.
Understood.
But when they're told that are you trying to stop enterprise and economic development? No, I'm just trying to sleep through the night without an airplane coming, 10 feet over my roof. So thank you for listening to us.
Of course.
Anything else? Okay.
We
All right.
appreciate the feedback and we'll take it back.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll see you again,
Thanks, Seth.
maybe not in 4 years.
Thanks, Seth.
All right, then.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
We have a second presentation this evening, and that is a presentation on our aggregation recommendation. I believe, Mr. Miller, you're going to take control of this one?
I am, yes, ma'am. It's actually going to be, it's going to be Brian and I. Brian had the most up-to-date conversation with Energy Alliances, but I can start this off. This is really more of a conversation than any presentation slide. We are approaching a time where we're going to need to do a renewal of our electric aggregation. The initial bid went out in December. Currently, we are our energy consultants, Energy Alliance. They are expecting Duke's pricing to come in between 9.7 cents and 10 cents in June of 2025. So their suppliers. They put 4 bids out in December, with Constellation looking like coming in with the best pricing. Still over 9 cents, but we're looking at between 9.3 and 9.4. These are not locked in yet. So what we're trying to do is just get in underneath Duke Energy's rates. Energy Alliances is asking for a resolution authorizing the township administrator to lock in that rate. We've done this before, just because of the timeliness of getting that final bid locked in and being able to act on it. So the suppliers are not, they're not even holding their rates overnight anymore. So we essentially have to, we're given a price and we say lock it in. So that's where we're at right now. Also the volatility of the market right now, we're recommending that we only do a 1-year contract. So hopefully, depending on what kind of policies we see coming out of DC, we may have better energy outlook in the near future, with more of our energy being, I guess some of our regulations being better for production in the coming years. So, like I said, 1 year to kind of get us through. We're going to try and lock this in. Obviously, we want to lock this in under the Duke rate. Otherwise, there's no point in being on energy aggregation. This isn't major savings that we've seen in the past. This is just getting in a slightly better deal. I will say, since we have had energy aggregation in Delhi, we are tracking upwards of $2.5 million in total savings to folks that have been on the electric aggregation. So it certainly has been a successful program. So we do have a.
Mr. Miller, I don't doubt the successfulness of this program. However, when we selected this aggregation company, we did do a survey and interviewed other companies at the same time. So are we not entitled to shop a little bit before we?
We could certainly shop around. I think that's a longer program than what we would have right now. We could go into this 1 year with the idea of shopping around over this interim period, and the fact that they are only recommending a 1 year at this point in time, this may be an opportune point to do so.
Well, every year when we go through this, we get a lot of letters slamming, with people being slammed with their aggregation contract in an attempt to move. I don't know, Brian, did you have anything you want to add to this?
Well, they have an option. So I'm seeing this in all of my other jurisdictions, and they're all saying the same thing: the volatility of the market. They won't keep the prices even on a daily basis.
Right.
So you need to act quickly. So again, I've seen this. You're now the 4th jurisdiction that I represent that I've had this precise presentation on. So you're getting the same information from these folks that everybody else is getting. Mr. Miller is right. You have the opportunity to do that if you want, but then you're going to have more time, and then you might get the rates right now are not, they're volatile and they're not good for you right now. They're just not. So that's why and let's be clear. I don't have a dog in this fight, and this is a trustee decision. What I have heard in these other presentations from Energy Alliances is that right now, because of the status of the market and volatility of the prices, that they just don't know where it's going to go, and that's why they only want to lock you in for a year, because they think that will give time, as Mr. Miller talked about, for the market to kind of settle down, and we have a little more predictability. But yeah, you're right, Madam President. If you want to, there are other organizations to do it. If you want us, if that's the board's.
Well, I guess my question is pretty simple. If we
I'm
lock
sorry.
in a price and this volatility goes in our favor, do they still have the option to drop the price in the 1-year contract, or are we locked in at the price of the contracts?
So the base aggregation rate, the automatic rate is locked in for that year, but every individual
Can opt out, right?
account holder within the township can opt out of this, go with the Duke rate, or opt into another, rate from another, energy provider. So, it's, Ohio's an open market. So you can, every individual, property owner can do as they please.
I thought in one of our earlier contracts with Energy Alliance, if the price dropped, they were willing to drop at the same time. Wasn't there something about going low?
I remember that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember that. And if the market's going to be as volatile as they're saying, and let's hope that they're right and it's going down in price, then I want us to be able to take our residents to that lower price. I don't want them locked in at a higher contract number. That's my concern.
Understood. I haven't seen the current contract, so I can't tell you what's in it or not, but I get your point, and we'll look for that.
Trustee Davis, you have a question?
I don't have a question. It's just so confusing and frustrating for our residents, and that's why they get
Yes.
flipped upside down on a regular basis with this. Do we have to opt in? Do we opt out? What happened to the other? It's like,
You have the good question. You always have the opportunity to either opt in or opt out. It's
Right.
a matter of filling it out.
And with Energy Alliance, we did not have a penalty for opting in and opting out.
Yeah.
And that was a big advantage
Correct.
to our contract with them.
That's correct.
Do we still have that?
There is no penalty. So as far as the rules of opt-in and opt-out, none of that has changed.
Right.
Okay? When our energy consultant, works with us to lock in a supplier, that rate is automatically opt-in for everybody in the township. Okay? At any point in time, individual property owners or electric account holders can opt out of that number or opt out of that supplier and go to any other supplier they want, including just staying with the base Duke rate.
Yep.
Okay? If at any point in time they want to opt back in, they can. There's no penalties.
Yep.
So, and that information is on our website. That has
Right.
not changed the entire time the township has been with Energy Alliances.
but I think that's what has to be out there, like, as the scroll on our website, because this really hits a lot. Okay, if they don't do anything, then they automatically go into this other with Energy Alliance, and is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay.
So just to be clear, it's certainly not a scrolling banner on our website, but we have an energy aggregation page that stays current on the township website. All of this information is out there.
Well, I know,
Right,
but I'm
okay.
just saying we should need to dust it off, because if we're doing it, it's going to create the ripple effect into the community again. And,
Yep.
and that other question is a valid question, because I do remember that discussion. If that rate is lower,
Lower.
they're guessing at the 9.7 to 10% by June 2025. Okay, and if not,
Right.
But then again, you're also, the flip side of that is, what if it's 12? What if it's at least you're locked in. So the bottom line is, we're trying to do what's best for the residents. We're trying to get you guys the best deal possible, and at the same time, not get left stand holding the bag here, so.
Well,
And
so-
information is gold, and
Well, and it's going
yeah.
to require that our residents take some responsibility for their choice.
That's exactly it.
And what we can do is best educate our residents on how to make that choice. And if that's going to the website and Administrator Miller, maybe we need a tutorial on our webpage about how to look at your bill and know where your utilities are coming from, because there's a lot of confusion.
We have that. It's on the website.
A tutorial?
Yes, there's also the state of Ohio provides a website to be able to compare your bill.
Okay.
So not only are there tools available for you to compare your bill, your bill under energy aggregation with the Duke rate, but you can look at all suppliers across the state of Ohio and pick one that is more preferable for you.
Do we have that on our website?
It's all on the website. Yep. And I will say, when we go through these cycles, whether it's doing a gas aggregation, a new contract with gas or with electric, we'll post on Facebook. We will we will generate more traffic to those pages so that that information's out there. I would also add, the phone number to Energy Alliances is on that site as well. So not only can you get the information from our website, get the information from Energy Alliance's website, you can call the consultant and they will
And
talk
again,
about
that was one of the reasons why their selection was made in the first place, and that was customer service. And I can remember distinctly their representative coming in and speaking to our seniors because it's very confusing. And we really wanted to get a working knowledge to everyone so that you get the best price and that you understand how you're getting the best price.
If I could oversimplify things, Mr. Miller's already provided the best, I think, guidance for folks, as did Madam President, which is you have to invest and look at your own bill. You can't look at this board, and I'm not hectoring and I'm not lecturing, I'm just telling folks, you can't look at this board and for this board to figure out your best rate. That's not what this board does. And frankly, you wouldn't want this board to go in and say, this is your best grocery rate too, either. That's not what this board wants to do or does. But this board is doing exactly what it should do for the residents, which is to say, you have the freedom, folks, to understand and do what you want to do. If you stay at Duke, you'll pay this price. We're giving you the ability to pay this price. Have at it.
Yep.
And I think that's thoughtful and smart by the board.
And
letting
Brian?
people, yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity here that you just kind of identified.
Okay.
If they get their bill, and I can remember the session at the senior center with learning how the aggregation was going to work, maybe we need to have a moment of clarity, a session of learning where our residents can come in and see the Energy Alliance people with their bills and have a better understanding of it. I don't see where they would object to that because they're great customer service people to begin with.
Agreed.
So let's talk to them and see if we can establish a understand your utility bill session, maybe at the senior center or here as well. But I think they're entitled to know and understand their bill a lot better and their options.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, we're talking about electric only.
Electric only. Yes, ma'am.
When does the current contract end?
May of some time.
Yep.
May. Okay, so we're doing this ahead of time,
Yes.
which I understand that. Okay. So what I'm hearing from people, what they're confused about are they're assuming, and again, I trust what we've done, so I don't look at my bill. Okay, it comes, I pay it, whatever, okay? Has it been high the past 2 months? Oh, yeah, okay? It's not just happening to those people out there, that are upset. It happened to us, too. What are all the other charges that they think they're paying, residents think they're paying because we have the aggregate?
Sure. Okay.
They pay that if they have Duke. What's the third party and all that kind of stuff?
Yes. Sure.
We need to explain that. What are those?
So
I said let's have a learning session.
I'm going to do this off the top of my head. So Brian, correct me if I miss something here. There's essentially a supplier rate. This is your kilowatt hour.
Right.
Okay. Energy aggregation is about that number. Of the 6 or 7 different charges that are on your bill, it's that one line. It is the unit price that you are paying for your electric. Okay, that is the one item that through an energy aggregation program or by an individual account holder shopping around to other suppliers, that is the one item that they can affect. Okay, so you pick that volume rate or that unit rate that you want. We're selecting it for our community, okay, and we're trying to beat the Duke rate or beat the local rates. All right. There's other charges. There's transmission charges.
Right.
Those fees go to Duke. There are, I think carrier fees. There's
Third party.
Environmental fees.
The third party.
Yep. Well, it's not third party. That's Duke. There's federal. There's regulatory fees. All of those things are built in. Those are fixed, and you're not changing them.
Okay, so
what
the
you're
only thing
not
that
doing,
change, and that's all. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
To be clear, what you're not doing by going with our energy aggregation plan or shopping around yourself for an electric supplier, you're not paying that and the Duke supply rate. So you're not getting double charged. okay? You're swapping out one of those lines with a preferred supplier. That is it.
Okay.
Now, in reality, here's what I'm going to tell you. On a good month, you're going to save 20 or 30 bucks. Okay? We are not talking about, having, a utility bill. Okay? So over the course of the year, if you have, 10 or 12 really good months of, you're looking at maybe saving a few $100s. Okay? So
Over 12 months.
over 12 months, that's what I'm saying. Because we're talking about, depending on where the market is, and the Duke rate is always in flux, right? So us locking in a rate is trying to stay under that, and sometimes it's staying under that over the period of the contract. Where we might have 1 month that's higher than Duke, but because we are on that fixed plan, we're able to beat the market volatility. Okay? So, and that's how this program is providing a savings. We're not there's no additional charges because of this, all right? And, your bill's still gonna be high in the winter.
Right.
Okay, if, for gas, your bill is still gonna be high in the summer, electric-wise, because of air conditioning. If you got a pool pump, there's seasonal things that are gonna change. I see those Facebook posts that talk about my bill went up $200, this month. I swear to you, it has nothing to do with energy aggregation. I can promise you that right now. So as long as your billing isn't messed up, okay, the aggregation is not to blame. Look at your usage.
Okay. And that's what I thought. Okay, and then my second question is, why do we every year make the people who opted out opt out? If that's what aggravates a lot of our residents. Why, if they've opted out and they've changed, do they have to opt out again?
Okay. Unfortunately, that's part of the deal. Why do we get such a good rate from the energy suppliers? Okay, this is why communities do energy aggregation programs. We have 30,000 people that live in Delhi Township, a little over 10,000 residences. Okay, so what our energy broker, Energy Alliance, is able to do is they are able to take to the market 10,000 accounts or more, okay, and say, hey, this is, we want a bulk deal. We want, it's power buying, right? Because we can offer you this many, new customers, we want the best deal possible, okay? So the bid is based on that. So that's why it's an automatic opt-in, and you have to, if you don't, there's no guarantee that they get to keep them. They have to earn your business. But every time we do a new contract, if you don't like the deal, you have to opt out.
Okay, thank you. Now I know how to reply. Thank you.
Okay, well,
Fun times.
I'm going to be the first one to sign up for the education on how to read your utility bill, just so you know. And Mr. Miller, you'll set up something that we can all follow on that?
Yes, and for the record,
I want to be able to answer our residents' questions when they have them about their utility bills, and I want to make sure that what I am saying is correct. Okay?
And I've personally walked some folks in the community through their bill, comparing, and comparing, or even just looking at it and say, hey, does this look right to you? So I'm certainly not an expert on the energy side, but I've seen it enough. I've got enough experience in dealing with the aggregation that we're happy to help. So, there's plenty of resources out there.
Thank you. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to close with? Okay. All right, well then we will start with department heads. And tonight we will begin with the fire department.
We have a motion to accept the voluntary resignation of firefighter EMT Colton R. Stath, effective February 19th, 2025.
So moved?
Second,
All those in favor?
yes?
Yes. Motion approved.
Motion to accept the voluntary resignation of firefighter EMT Michael S. Siciliano, effective March 8th, 2025.
So moved?
Second,
All those in favor?
yes?
Motion approved.
Motion to accept the voluntary resignation of firefighter EMT Justin M. Schmidt, effective March 13th, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion to accept the voluntary resignation of firefighter EMT Michael G. Schultz, effective February 26th, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved. All right, Chief.
We'd like to thank the service of all these gentlemen. They've got a few of them that have received full-time offers with other organizations, and we're used to kind of seeing that go. And, we're happy for the time that they served here, but Bright Fire Department, Florence Fire Department, and Westchester Fire Department are getting good firefighters. So we're happy for the service here. Hate to see them go, but this is kind of the course with our part-time personnel. It's very hard to say no to a full-time job. So
Well, you get to follow this with some good news.
yes.
You have a motion, Mr. Luby?
We have a motion to promote Megan P. Unger to career firefighter paramedic in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Township Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 3389, pending psychological evaluation, effective March 21st, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved. Congratulations, Megan.
We have a motion to approve the hiring of Nathaniel A. Crawley as a part-time firefighter EMT in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association upon successful completion of a voice stress analyzer test and pre-employment physical and drug test, effective on February 26, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve the hiring of Adam J. Sackenheim as part-time firefighter EMT in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association upon successful completion of a voice stress analyzer test and a pre-employment physical and drug test, effective on February 26, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve the hiring of Nicholas M. Jackson as a part-time firefighter EMT in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with Delhi Firefighters Association upon successful completion of a voice stress analyzer test and pre-employment physical and drug test, effective on February 26, 2025.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion approved. Chief, do you have a department update for us?
I do. So as I've alluded to in the past with these hirings and resignations, and certainly there's concern because you see so many names turning over, what I can say is we are at full strength. So Megan's promotion from part-time to full-time, she's a familiar face in our organization, been with us since 2023, and is leaving full-time from Colerain Township Fire Department to come here. So we're excited to have her work with us in a full-time capacity. So congratulations to Megan. And then Nathan, Adam, and Nicholas all are part of that contingent where we are replacing those folks in order to keep that staffing of 60 that we've had. That in line with a couple things, one of the challenges I have in our organization is kind of staying on top of how we deploy our resources and how effective we are as an organization. So how do I determine how adequate our responses are? Well, I look at two things, just basically our reliability and our capabilities. Reliability is the hardest thing to quantify, but if you can imagine, if I have 2 medical calls, I only have 1 resource left in the township under those circumstances. When a resource like an ambulance or a fire truck's not available because it's on another run, its reliability goes down. And so there's challenges to that. Staffing has an impact. If we have call-offs and challenges like that, that's part of it. That's why we want to keep our numbers and staffing up as high as we do and maintain that so we have the adequate personnel resources. But you can't control illness and things like that. With that being said, regionally, we're under a lot of pressure right now with illness just in general. And there's a couple things I want to point out to the board just so you understand the overall concept, things that you may or may not be aware of. So our community, we have rather large long-term care facilities. They're under constant pressure because of the age group in which they house their residents, which are our residents as well. They have a high use of medical needs. What we have to balance with those type of calls is they're challenged with transporting their folks to the hospital. And it's not always timely if they call on a non-emergency response, that they may not be available for days, depending on the schedule. So dealing with shortages of non-emergency transports, the challenge then befalls us. They have no options. They feel like we've got to get this person into the hospital. It may not classify as a super emergent need, but the challenge is they call us, we have to transport. So that takes a unit out of service. That's where the reliability goes down. On the other side, what our medics are facing is the at-capacity notifications of our hospitals. A couple years ago, we used to get a radio call, say a hospital was on diversion. It was a cue not to respond with any patients there. The patient wanted to go there, it was their wish. We went there. We were dealing with staff problems, with nursing and things like that. Challenges for our paramedics to deliver the patients. And so they said, well, let's make it kindler and gentler. We'll call it at capacity. It's a note to us, basically. It tells our paramedics, like, if they go to that hospital, they're going to wait. So if we're called into action unduly because there's a shortage of non-emergency personnel, we're also being delayed in turning around our patients at these hospitals. So the challenge is we're shopping facilities and things like that. That reduces our reliability. That reduces the amount of time that a emergency response resource is available here in the township. It's just a reality. We can't control the calls and the frequency, but we just mentioned our highest year was 4,400 runs last year. You add these other problems which we cannot fix. I cannot, go and fix the nursing staffing problem in hospitals. And that's certainly a challenge. They get sick too. If they don't have enough nurses, you may walk into an emergency room with a bunch of empty beds and our paramedics may think like, well, we could just drop them off here. If they don't have a nurse to take care of that patient that would be in that bed, we wait. There's been reports, and I don't think we've experienced this personally, but there's been reports of the ambulances being delayed 35, 45 minutes. We don't have the luxury, when you add in the times of the response times and things like that, to just sit and wait to turn around. And we can't just leave patients. We have a duty to make sure that they're responsibly transferred. So this is just more of kind of like an edification for the board to understand some of the challenges we're under in maintaining the resources here in the township, there's a lot of things at play before it ever comes to, it's more complicated than 911. So I just figured it's happening a lot now. Everybody's sick. Flu A is all over the place. And one of the challenges we have is during COVID, folks didn't want to go to the hospital because that's where all the sick people were. When flu A is at its worst, people want to go to the hospital. Well, guess where everybody has the flu? At the hospital. So this is a challenge on our part to deal as well. And it ebbs and flows. I don't think we're going to have these same strains in summertime. This is exceptionally bad with norovirus, the RSV, and all the respiratory illnesses going on. But I know you are very in tune on seeing what our emergency response looks like, the challenges with response times. These things all play into a factor, and I think it's timely to kind of bring it up just because these are the challenges we have to go through.
Right. And we watch the diversion reports, the CAD reports, and of what hospitals are closed and who's at full capacity. And, I mean, there's got to be times, Doug, when you're pulling out of an emergency thinking,
They're trying to figure out where to go.
where to go, where to go that you can get in.
And unfortunately, I hate to say this, 83% of those at capacity calls are Mercy Health System.
Yes, they are.
And that is our closest response. So that makes it a challenge.
But on a good news, a lot of news, we have great nursing facilities with Bailey and Western Hills Retirement. And part of the reason why people look to be there is because they know that they have great emergency health services available. And so
No, certainly they're in a challenge, and we're in constant communication with administrative staff over there. If we have questions that we know, we have contacts over there to say, hey, what's the issue with this call or this run? This seems out of place. This isn't something you normally call emergency services for. So we do have that good working relationship. So just a challenge. On another good note, next week we start our Citizens Fire Academy. So those that are going to be joining us, like I said, the last meeting, you're going to see how the sausage is made. That's essentially, that's how we get the product that we have. And then last but not least, I want to thank the staff of HFIT, certainly Mr. Miller and the Delhi Event Center for allowing us to host with Tri-State Health or Tri-State Peer Support, Delhi Police Department, Delhi Fire Department, a presentation by Dr. Berkeley on stress exposure and helping with our home front partners. Basically, it was an avenue for parents, grandparents, spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, you name it. Anybody that supports a first responder in our community was presented with tips, techniques to build and strengthen relationships due to the PTSD and other things that we deal with in the mental health arena for first responders and the challenges. So opening that up to spouses, had a lot of good feedback last night. We had about 42 attendees, and it was a good educational experience, and certainly we appreciate you guys working with us.
Mental health is finally getting the attention that it obviously was in need of for some time, so thank you for your participation in that. Do you, would you like to also just take a minute and introduce our special guest that's in the audience? Although she's sleeping.
Yes, the wonderful Ember over there is
Ember,
our
the
fire
fire
department
dog,
therapy
is here.
therapy dog. Yes,
But unfortunately, everyone, she's sleeping. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
if you have any questions, I'd have that.
No, no, thank you.
All right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Doug. We will move on. Oh, Mr. Soupy, you're on.
Good evening. Just a couple updates from last meeting also. The weather is kind of breaking, so we're gearing up for spring here, so we're getting all the equipment done as usual. Staffing is getting all the events and activities set up, scheduled. Our farmers market just went out today. I think our craft show is full as of now, but there is a waiting list. That's coming up in March. Baseball, softball, signups are going out right now, even though the fields are a little wet, but it's coming. As the weather breaks, we are going to keep working on the dog park build installation. It is going to be work in progress. We're getting everything set, built in, so we are going to open, in a timely manner, but we're going to be adding amenities as well. So just keep your eyes open, and we'll have it on Facebook and announce everything. Let's see. As usual, we're going to shoot for April 1st for our opening, per se, for waters and getting restrooms back on, shelters going. Along with that, the shelters, fields, everything come as usual, but I will keep an eye on the extended forecast as usual. Occasionally we get a good year and we can start early, so we'll see if it comes up, we'll post that as well.
Okay.
So,
And our park resource officer begins working with you when?
he starts March, or April 1st.
April
I'm sorry,
1st as well. That's what I thought.
Yes. So that's it for now. Any other questions, let me know.
All right, thank you. Anything, Rose?
No, thank you so much.
Nope.
All right. Police Department, you're on. Mr. Luby, you have a resolution?
Resolution 2025-12, entering into the Education Affiliation Agreement between the Delhi Township Police Department and Miami University to cooperate in educational programs, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Chief?
Just simple terms, it allows Kaylee Vickers, our social worker, to have another co-op student from Miami University. Obviously, she does a great job, and the universities around us are recognizing that, and she's helping train future social workers for police departments.
Yeah.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Sturts?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey?
Yes. Resolution passes.
We have a motion to approve the hiring of Douglas W. Edmondson as police officer in the police department at third-year rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Police Association upon successful completion of the background investigation, psychological testing, pre-employment physical, and drug testing, and establishing his vacation accrual date as January 1st, 2019, and accepting 50% sick time balance upon separation from his current public agency, effective on February 26, 2025.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion approved, and welcome Douglas Edmondson to what we think is the best of the best. Welcome to the Delhi Township Police Department.
Trustee Seavey, we're not the only ones who think that.
We're not the only ones?
Mr. Beck, I loved your comment before where you acknowledged the safety services, and it truly is a gem in the township with our fire, with our police. Go somewhere else and you'll see it, and it sounds like when you moved out and you came back, you're like, this is nice. And when you have someone that actually responds to your front door in about 4 minutes on a 911, that's awesome. So thanks for that. Sorry.
Chief, do you have a department update for us?
If I could just make a comment about Mr. Edmondson. He comes to us from Green Township. He's been there for approximately 6 years. He also worked for the county for about 3 years and was in the military for 8 years as a military police officer. So he's got some great experience, and we look forward to having him once all the items are complete.
Great, thank you. Thank you,
So
thank you.
just a couple quick updates. We did have our annual awards banquet on February 15th, and I just wanted just to give a shout out to the officers who won awards.
Please do.
Officer of the Year was Officer Jan Gelhar. Supervisor of the Year was Sergeant Joe Goddard. Delhi Award, which is for Public Relations and Community Outreach, was Christy Goff. Outstanding Law Enforcement Achievement was Lieutenant Matt Caluso. Kara Falk received the Valor Award from her incident where the gentleman came at her with a knife and as she was sitting in her cruiser, and did a great job with that. And Support Services Employee of the Year is full-time clerk Lori Lawrence. So those are all, and it's important to note that these are all peer-driven awards. So their peers are nominating them for awards, and they go to a committee and they select them. So that, our command staff is not saying, okay, this person and this person. It's all peer-driven. It's incredible. We're incredibly proud of that. And the last note, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of Randy here a little bit. Just keep in mind when it's warm and more people are in the park, there's going to be more police officers in the park.
Okay.
So make sure people are behaving and respecting each other. Unfortunately, today we had an assault in the park, and a young man got hauled off to jail. So, so we're keeping an extra eye on it, and there's going to be consequences for bad behavior. So we just ask for voluntary compliance as usual with everything we do. And we'll be there smiling, and if you misbehave, we're going to make sure we give you directions on how to behave.
Is this juvenile?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, and we'll have this discussion later, I don't have it tonight, we got a lot on the agenda, but I think setting the agenda in that park early, right out at the beginning here, to let them know this is a family-friendly park, and coming in or sliding across the borders from District 3 and Priceville, wherever else, so you can do your stuff here, isn't going to work, and we've got cameras everywhere. It is awesome, awesome. So come in, you do something stupid, you're probably going to go to jail.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just an important note, this year we're kind of changing the way we're handling the park officer. It's going to be handled by our Problem Orient Policing Unit. So they're all going to go in there early on and make sure there's enough presence and taking care of problems. And then obviously the normal officer will be there every night. But as far as early on, we're going to have multiple police officers in there. So
love it.
Nice.
Great. Love it. Thank you. All right, then. Public Works, Mr. Rippinger. Mr. Luby, he has a hiring recommendation.
We have a motion to approve the hiring of Owen A. Triplett as Service Worker 1 to the Public Works Department at the first step rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Road Department Employees Association and successful completion of the pre-employment drug testing and background check effective on February 26th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion approved, and welcome Owen to a great hardworking team of Mr. Rippinger. You have a department update?
Yeah, nothing too much. Let's see. Just want to let the residents know and the board that we do stay proactive on potholes, even outside of our roadways. I know we have our own to deal with, but we talk to Hamilton County quite often, report them. The City of Cincinnati has a nice online that you can submit multiple potholes to in the surrounding area. So that worked out pretty good, and we've had some good success with it. Once we turn it in, it's fixed within a couple days. So I know we turned in like Route 50, Anderson Ferry to the city of Cincinnati.
Ron, do we have a contact for litter control on Hamilton County roads?
That was my
Because
next
with
thing.
the snow having melted, it's like the litter has just grown. And I'm thinking particularly lower Delhi, where it's not in our township, but litter is strewed all the way down from Fairbanks to River Road.
We also are very proactive on that. We haven't gotten any phone calls yet, but I did see that today, and I turn that in every year also to the city
Okay.
of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
There's also debris down there inside the city, so if they're going to call the city, they can get the debris out of the roadway down there by those apartments and lower in the city down there, the speed bumps. They can get those out too.
We'll turn that in.
Yeah,
too.
get that debris out too, the speed bump, especially one that's going uphill to a stoplight. They can take out that speed bump too.
Yeah, it's definitely a predictable.
Wow.
It's a predictable wave. You know, we deal with the potholes, and then soon after it's litter, and then, But the county and the city, and then we take care of our own litter. I know the park stays active, picking up a lot of litter, so
Okay.
we'll stay on top of it.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
All right. Administration, Mr. Miller. So we have a resolution first.
Resolution 2025-13, imposing a 100-day moratorium on the cultivation, processing, and retail sale of adult-use cannabis, declaring an emergency, and dispensing with a second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of the resolution.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Miller?
Mr. Pacheco and I have been looking at, the discussion at the State House in Columbus. There's a lot of volatility right now with some of the language that, some of the language and some of the terms that General Assembly is looking to apply to, recreational marijuana laws. At this point in time, just because, licenses are getting issued for cannabis cultivators, dispensaries, and the like, it seems prudent at this point in time to put a moratorium on any activity within the township until the state figures out what they're going to do, and we can decide, with proper information how we want to, handle, regulate, or ultimately prohibit cannabis activity in the township.
This
So-
is actually our second moratorium on cannabis, is it not? Did we not have one
so
for
to be-
medical dispensary?
So-
We had one
so-
on medical.
That's an outright prohibition.
Okay.
The township, I believe back in 2017, prohibited medical
Prohibited. You're
marijuana
correct.
facilities. Okay. Recreational cannabis is a different animal. It's being regulated, managed, licensed by the state differently. It's certainly something that we've got to keep our thumb on, and again, because of the volatility at the state, it's something that we need to wait on before we take any permanent action. A 6-month moratorium gives us the opportunity to sit back and watch what the General Assembly is going to do.
I think the timing is for them to
Yeah.
to figure out what, we have gone from a 10% to a 5% to a 3.6 to nothing.
So you're
as
talking
far as what
and-
comes
and-
back to the
right.
townships.
And you're
Now-
talking about the tax. You're just talking about the tax revenue potential for either communities or ultimately, what's going to go to the state.
And originally, it was supposed to go to Health and Safety Services, and now it's going back into, at least as of today,
General
it
Revenue
was
Fund.
back into the Ohio General Fund, which doesn't really help us with safety services being financed by any of this revenue, if we ever see the revenue.
Sure.
But yet, we will be responsible for having the police and the fire when it's necessary at these locations. So,
as I said,
I think the moratorium is to give the state of Ohio a chance to figure out where they are on this.
Can I just
Are
say?
we correct or incorrect in interpretation?
Well, I'm not sure what's more in flux or has more volatility right now, the electric market or the General Assembly related to marijuana. And I say that only half tongue in cheek.
Right.
There are competing bills in the Senate and the House right now, and so we'll see what happens. But it's very prudent, I think, for the board to wait and see what happens first with the state and what they do vis-a-vis your power, and then to be able to see where after the deck's clear, where you are at that point. So yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I heard when Mr. Luby read it, 100-day moratorium. I just want to make sure it was 180.
Should be 180.
180 days.
180.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I could be clogged up. I hold 100. I just want to make sure if anybody wants to challenge this, it's 180 days is what we're
One
voting
second,
on.
let me,
It says 180.
It says 180.
it says 180,
Yeah.
yep.
Again, I just want to make sure.
180, roughly 6 months.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Clear 6 months from, because we're making this effective immediately, it's 6 months from today, just to, or 180, more precise, 180 days from today.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Luby, have you read that resolution?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're on.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey?
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2025-14, authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion further on this resolution?
Nothing further, ma'am.
All right.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second a motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis? Mrs. Sturts?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey?
Yes, resolution passes. Administrators report, Mr. Miller?
I won't go on too long tonight, but if anybody is driving down the pike and they see a lot of earth moving and brush clearing next door to us, that is the Seton Project. So that's the Seton Sports Complex, the SC. As it stands right now, they're doing a lot of brush clearing, getting rid of all the stumps. Here in the next week, I think you'll start seeing the actual buildings come down. Police and fire have done their part to start tearing those homes up. So you'll see a lot of holes in the roof or garage doors. That was all part of the plan and the opportunity for our safety services to have that training. But it looks a lot different back there with all that ground cleared. So I was actually walking back there with some representatives from Seton just this afternoon, and visualizing a soccer field back there right now is a little tough because it's quite the valley. So, yeah, lots to come on that project. So,
All right, thank you.
yep, that's all I have.
Community developments, Mr. Roach, there is a resolution, Mr. Luby?
Resolution 2025-15, entering into contract for services with Brian Rhodes, DBA Get Off My Lawn Care, to perform nuisance abatement services and to repair or secure dangerous structures, authorizing the Township Administrator to execute the contract, declaring an emergency, and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Roach?
We already have established contractors that we use for our abatements, but this is just to put another tool in our toolbox and put them on a rotation. It doesn't hurt, and it's nothing against our contractors that we have now, but it's just to give us another tool in community development.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank
This
you.
is a common practice to have multiple contractors. You may run into scheduling issues. You may just have, hopefully we don't, but sometimes you run into high volume abatements and you need more than one or two. So
All right, thank you.
I like the name of the LLC.
And it's nice having a local resident here, too. He lives right here in
Brian
the
is a local
township.
resident as well.
Good.
As well as our other contractors, a local resident as well, business owner.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes. Continuing with resolution, Mr. Luby.
Resolution 2025-16, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 843 Ivy Hill Drive, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution and those that follow, Mr. Roach?
Yep, so the 5 resolutions that Mr. Luby is going to read now, they're all debris. This is just remnants of a set-out, and they removed some of it, but it's just sitting there, so we need to continue on with our process.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2025-17, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 5040 Delhi Road, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
Introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Discussion on this resolution?
Yep, I apologize for the picture. The elements kind of got us there, but there is debris underneath that snow. I know it's hard to see. So this resolution and the next resolution are the same property owner, and we are working with the property manager to get these properties cleaned up, but we just want to have our ducks in a row just in case we don't. This complaint originally came in that was on Township Park property, but with doing a little bit of work, it's actually on the neighboring property. So.
Okay.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of the resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2025-18, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 5130 Delhi Road, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Discussion on this resolution?
Thank you. So working with the same property manager, these spoils are actually from when Kroger had the water main break at their main entrance, and they just ended up dumping the blacktop behind the building.
Great.
So, but the property manager has assured us that it will be removed, but we just want to have our process in place just in case.
Move to
They
dispense.
promised to remove it, but it hasn't been removed.
That's correct. And some of you can see the elements got them as well.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 2025-19, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 5418 Casual Court, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Thank you. It doesn't look like much. There's a tire and a bag of trash there. Sometimes residents just need that last little push with the last letter we sent out to push them over the finish line to clean up. So
Okay.
it's not much, but we did get a complaint about it.
I move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes. Resolution passes.
Resolution 2025-20, declaring nuisance for accumulated debris at 416 Greenwell Avenue, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Same here. There's not much there, but we did get a complaint about it, and it's just sometimes, like I said, it just needs that little extra push to get them over the finish line with the last letter.
Okay.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading? Yes.
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 Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes. Are you saying that these property owners needed to tush push? I learned
Well,
that today.
that's in discussion. I don't think
In
we're gonna-
football.
We're going to ban that.
Just saying. Okay.
We have Resolution 2025-21, certifying violation abatement expenses at 5789 Juvene Way, 4118 Delhi Pike, 5330 Plum Ridge Drive, and 5725 Forson Drive to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Discussion on this resolution?
Just is this a standard resolution so we can submit this to the Hamilton County Auditor so we can make the June tax duplicate for properties that we have abated?
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes, resolution passes. To this point, when we do these, we're not a landscape company, and this is costing us $975, $550, $700, $575 to clean up individual properties. So, and it takes us forever to get our cash back from Hamilton County.
But keep in mind, so when you see that figure, $375 of that is an administrative cost that we tack on for our fees. It doesn't nearly come close to covering the hours.
Covering it.
In the man hours and the work put into getting it there.
Right. Thank you. All right. I don't have any other public comment for this evening. Is that correct? No? Okay, thank you. Announcement of community events, Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am. All right, Paint Like the Masters, 2-week classes offered on various days in, February and March. Cost is $50. Explore the lives and techniques of well-known artists, then choose a favorite and use acrylics to create art inspired by the artist. Paintings are chosen from master painters on display at the Cincinnati Art Museum. A link to register can be found on the Delhi Event Center website and on Facebook. Wednesdays with Claire. These will happen starting on Wednesday, March 5th, and go to April 9th from 6:30 until 8:30 p.m. Preserve your life stories for future generations to treasure. Join us for an exclusive 6-session memoir writing class. No experience necessary. Learn from award-winning writer, artist, and Pushcart Prize nominee with global recognition. Claire will guide you in crafting your unique narrative. Space is limited. Cost for the 6-session class is $100. Register today. Let's see. Delhi Park Spring Craft and Vendor Show is Saturday, March 22nd from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. It'll be at the Delhi Senior and Community Center at 647 Neeb Road. For more information, please call 513-451-3300 or visit the Township website at www.delhi.oh.us. And let's see here. Arts Activity Camp. This is a spring break activity camp running from April 14th to the 18th, Monday through Friday. Extended day morning and afternoon times are available for an additional $50 per child. It runs from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. for ages 7 to 14. New activities are offered daily, exploring different art techniques such as watercolor, stamping, quilting, and sculpture. Please pack a lunch. For more information, go to the Delhi Event Center website at www.delhieventcenter.com/arts. All right, announcing our Delhi Summer Concert Series for 2025. Concerts are held at Delhi Park Pavilion at 7 p.m., starting with the Whammies on June 4th, followed on June 18th by the Cincinnati Transit Authority, July 23rd, the Eagles Project, August 6th, Deviate, August 20th, the Menus, and finally ending on September 3rd with Forever Diamond. Food and drinks are available for purchase. No coolers, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, we do have cause this evening for executive session, so if I could please have the motion, Mr. Luby.
Motion to retire to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and/or compensation of a public employee of the township.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
We will conclude this
Give the
part.
roll call.
Mr. Davis?
Sorry.
Mrs. Sturts?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavey?
Yes. That concludes this part of our trustee meeting for this evening. We will retire to executive session, but I wanted to thank everyone for coming this evening and listening to the presentations.
Mrs. Seavey, I think we all saw when we pulled in here with Dunkin' Donuts. That's kind of a cool announcement.
Oh, yes, we all saw it. Dunkin' Donuts, 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts.
24 hours. You know what that means, Chief?
We'll be up all night.
Third shift just got busy. No, that's great. That means business is good, and I think they'll stay busy.
Thank you all for being here, and I want to invite you all to our next regular meeting, which is, well, it's gone. I believe it's March the 12th, Wednesday, March the 12th.
March 12th at 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.